tired of the same people, of the same things. I want to escape now to another place now, but with you 'cause I don't want to be alone. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. They're three wide again. Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across. They're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. You know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower.
Brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look and the drift is going off.
I love this. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to round 4, despite what the graphic says, of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge here at Circuito de Jerez Angel Nieto. Basically, Jerez, isn't it? Or, as Ed May and I have been saying, it's Jerez, isn't it, Ed? Fantastic circuit, legendary status, and a great place to go GT racing.
Yeah, it is. It's a great venue, one that I haven't actually had the joy of commentating at before, so this will be first time here, and obviously the first time for the drivers here, one of the newer circuits to the iRacing sim service, and looks like it could be quite a good one. It's fairly close in the practice session, as it was in Daytona. Very different sort of characteristic of a circuit to Daytona. A few flat-out sections, as you can see on the track map, but also that final sector, very technical, very twisty. That's going to maybe bring some other cars that might not be as favoured, say, in terms of balance performance, more into the fray. Things like the Porsches will really be strong there. Then, of course, with the acceleration zones, especially out of that final corner, I think the BMWs might have a field day as well.
Yeah, there's going to be an interesting element here with all the different cars that we've got. Obviously, it's one of the things that we absolutely love about GT racing, is the fact that these cars always throw up the odd surprise here and there based on the balance of performance. Looking at the championship standings at the moment, you'll see there that it is Callum Brandt leading the way after 3 rounds in our little American tour that we had, starting at Mid-Ohio, then over to Road Atlanta, and then at Daytona. And, of course, Simon Povey is behind him and Lewis Ward. 68 to 66, though. Lewis Ward only 2 points back. And then there's 9 points between the two Spontex CDM Esports Scourers machines. And then 2 points to Niles Core. There's then a bit of a 9-point buffer, but look how close it is all the way down. In the Teams Championship as well, there's only 9 points between the top 3 teams. Spontex CDM Esports Scourers top of that pile by 5 points over Apex Racing Academy. And RD Simsport up there too. It's certainly looking like a bit of a 3-horse race up there at the moment, though, isn't it, Ed, with them 3 teams?
Yeah, it is incredibly close, and it's at the stage where you cannot call a favourite at all. Each team has a big chance of taking home the honours in the Team Championship as well, in the Drivers' Championship. It's still wide open. We said last season that we thought it was going to be a 2-horse race between Lewis Ward and Simon Povey, and then we had that great emergence, didn't we, onto the scene of Callum Brandt. I think we might be seeing maybe a 3-way fight, maybe even a 4-way fight, because we have seen some very good performances recently by Niels Core, especially last time out at Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty to look at and plenty to think about for our drivers and for our teams in this next round of the season. It's Lewis Ward that's fastest at the moment, just practicing his pit entry. We've got Callum Brandt in the pits as well. Christian Zaruta was just on the screen there with Lewis, going around the final corner or so. A big shout out to the championship sponsors, of course, Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Blinds to Go, Derbyshire Holiday Homes, and Mydas Simulations. And a special shout out this evening to Craig, Dave, and Kirk Cook, friends of Andy Marston, that is obviously the boss man here at Sim Racing Magazine. Apparently the guys have watched every stream that we've done, Ed, and they're really enjoying it. So shout out to you guys, and thank you for supporting the streams.
Yeah, it's great to know that not only the drivers that take part in these races enjoy the broadcasts, but their friends and family and anyone else really that likes to tune in and watches them enjoys them as well. It's a great little league, great community, and it's good to see that they get everybody involved. It's absolutely wonderful. Speaking of getting involved, I've seen some exciting developments on the Chaz Draycott media front, haven't we, with a new championship on the horizon.
Oh god, yeah, So the British Boring Car Championship is coming back. There's a number of you that may have seen the British Boring Car Championship before. We basically run 1990s Super Tourer liveries on the wonderfully exciting Volkswagen Jetta diesel touring car here on iRacing, hence the name Boring. And we do a replica of the 90s British Touring Car Championships at the similar circuits and have 2 sprint races in a night. We used to have the whole sprint and feature race format, but that's unfortunately been dropped for this season in the aim of simplicity. But we've got a busy circuit right now in front of us here at Jerez. A lot of fantastically named corners here, Ed, and quite frankly, it's not a layout I've been too familiar with before. It's very new to iRacing still, but we've got places like Ferrari, the Ayrton Senna chicane, Peluqui, we've got Angel Nieto, although apparently the hairpin down at the bottom is called Dry Sack, so we'll have to avoid the puns for that one this evening, won't we?
Yeah, although it is actually quite a dry circuit at the moment, isn't it? You can see the track temperatures. Oof. Well, I'm not sure if it'll be dry, but it's certainly sweaty out there, to say the least. 54 degrees.
It's very, very sweltering out on circuit right now. Air temperature is only 23, but that circuit has been able to bake in that sunlight for quite a while, so it's really been quite bad out there. James Holman is back again this evening, which is good to see, and James had a lot of internet connectivity issues at the last round of the championship, and he, like I, have had a very fickle internet connection in the past, and it turns out that all the difference is that James's partner was watching Netflix. Simple as that. Other streaming platforms are available, of course, the best of them here on YouTube and on Facebook with Chaz Draycott Media, but still, it's fantastic to see James back and with a consistent connection and doing well in the Porsche. So too is Rob Sharp. It seems like there's strength in numbers with Porsches, though. They're in pairs. Ryan Penny and Heinz Meyer near each other further down, then Andy Shepherd and Kim Such. James Holman just comes out of Dry Sack. To be fair, I don't think there'll be many of those this evening, will there, Ed, with the weather we've been having? Still, we've got Johnny Elia in the 11/10 machine, very aptly in P11 as well. I'm going to get demonetised.
That's all right. It's fine. It's good enjoyment, to say the least. But yeah, Johnny Elia, he's been going quite all right, to be fair. Having some good turn of pace. But I have been very excited by James Holman. He had a standout performance, I think it's fair to say, at Daytona. Really pulled off some great moves, some smart racing as well. It was just at that last round of pit stops where he started to fall away from the pack. This is a circuit that will favour the Porsche a little bit more with the sort of direction change, the way the car turns into these corners and puts the power down on the exit. It's a circuit that does lend itself a bit more towards the Porsche's strengths rather than its weaknesses, which are, of course, that very top end straight line speed. As we see James Holman go that a little bit faster, just to within 2/10 of fastest time being set by Lewis Ward. As you can see, practice is coming to an end, and when we get into qualifying, we'll start to see how the drivers help each other out. Maybe not the same level of slipstreaming as we saw last time out at Daytona, but it can still help to get a few more positions, and that's going to be key in such a tight contested grid.
Yeah, it really is. It's going to be a close one tonight. There's going to be a lot of darting and diving around here, and I have to say, from sorting the cameras out earlier on, obviously launching a session and going into that myself, the actual start-finish straight is very narrow here at Jerez. It really surprised me how narrow it felt. Obviously there's buildings and big walls either side, but still, it is not wide at all, like a lot of Grand Prix circuits that you tend to see. Obviously this circuit is known for hosting a lot of bike racing as well. MotoGP visits here, and it's understandable to see why. It's got so many long sweeping corners and so many tight and twisty ones as well. It's a great challenge and a real spectacle to keep an eye on. Here is Paul Goffin. I believe he is the furthest car around the circuit at the moment in the SRM Racing Team A McLaren. And car number 164 currently finds himself 17th in the championship. He's got 13 points, tied with Ben Gregory. But Paul's been a driver that's had his on and off nights, hasn't he, in this championship, Ed? Because he's got the pace a lot of the time to really score points for SRM Racing Team, but then other times he's just struggled a little bit here and there. It's interesting to see him actually in the McLaren instead of the Porsche.
Yeah, it's something that I think when you're in those tight fights, especially towards the lower end of the point scoring positions, the drivers can be a little bit more feisty, and sometimes if you are struggling a little bit for pace and you find yourself in those positions, you can just get swept aside, well, unfortunately. But I think the best thing to do is just to stay out of trouble, and I think that's something that Paul's, I think, been the unfortunate victim of a few incidents at the opening few moments of a race. I think we saw him involved in one at Daytona, if I can remember. There was a sort of coming together into the first corner more than a few times for a few drivers. But here at Jerez, we might be seeing a slightly more laid-back affair. It's difficult to say, though, because these drivers, they don't really know the meaning of the word laid-back.
They really don't know. They will be giving it absolutely everything. Here is Tom Weston of Scalant Pro Driving, teammate with Fausto Pinto for this season. We did look into the incident with Fausto actually last week, and obviously we apologise if we did him any sort of disservice, because I'm sure anyone would agree that what contact we did see looked intentional, but there was a review into it, we looked into it, spoke to Fausto, we spoke to Andy Marston as well, and it was unfortunately the case that Fausto races in VR. Now, we forgot about this, and Fausto and I even had a conversation about this a while ago, so to him I apologise for not remembering that. But he was looking left to check where the traffic was coming round the corner and not expecting Andy to still be parked there in the middle of the road. So he was looking left over his shoulder to see what was coming, and obviously wanted to try and join at speed to merge as easily as possible, and just didn't see Andy there, unfortunately. So we went over it and we discussed it with him and with Andy, and we were going to give him a race ban for the incident, but obviously in those circumstances it was all agreed that it was just a human error. He didn't mean any intent by it, and he is luckily, well, I was going to say luckily, but fortunately we have him here with us this evening. It's great to have him back on the grid, obviously, and yeah, like I say, we just didn't want to do him a disservice, so we wanted to make sure we cleared that up with anybody as well. And at the end of the day, we all know that Fausto's a lovely bloke. He's a big supporter of the championship, and we know that he wouldn't cause any issues like that. So yeah, it's good to have.
Yeah. And with that, all of the pitchforks are sheathed, and we can get back to the racing at hand, or rather the qualifying at hand. The drivers putting their first times on to the board. They've had their outlaps and gotten the tyres sort of into the right window. I think here, to be fair, with the track temperatures, it doesn't take a lot to get the heat into them. It's more about getting the heat out of them, which will be the issue in the race. Here we go over the line. Lewis Ward leading the two Apex Racing Academy cars over the line. These are just their outlaps at the moment, so they came out onto the circuit a little bit later, the two Apex cars. Speaking of, actually, I'm not sure if we have an update with Dan Macaulay. Any more BMX incidents to report?
No, actually, no incidents as such. He's just been doing some lovely stuff, actually. He's just been doing really well. He's been supporting some of his friends from work as well, who've done a fantastic thing for charity as well, where they've done 24 skate parks in Scotland for within 24 hours. And they raised a lot of money for charity, and I've donated to the cause as well, because they're lovely guys and it seems like they had a good laugh doing it. Dan was trying to show me some of their efforts of the video that they'd edited today, but unfortunately we couldn't get it to work. But still, it'll be good to see what comes of that, and yeah, Dan's not injured himself again since, so that's good to see. We've got Callum Brandt fastest at the moment, Niles Core up there, Dominic Brennan, and this man, Rob Sharp, currently fourth fastest. We've got 1/10 of a second between the top few cars as Simon Povey's going to go for the line. And there you go, goes fastest by nearly 6/10 of a second. Now you can tell Simon and Dominic apart a little bit more tonight. Dominic's got his numbers sorted on the Spontex CDM Esports Scourers car. He's also painted his wheels white, which I'm a fan of. We can't really figure out why, but sometimes you can do it and other times you can't. And unfortunately, Simon's car is still to have the white wheel update. But yeah, Simon running the black wheels tonight.
That is a lap as well from Simon. That is a really strong lap, because the fastest time in practice set by Lewis Ward was a 1 minute 49.762. That lap was a 1:49.642, so that was an entire 10th quicker. And it was just at the start of this session where the track hasn't properly been rubbered in. We'll see that Lewis Ward, he goes even faster. He phones a couple of tenths from his previous best, goes up now into provisional pole position by just over 1/10 of a second to Simon Povey.
Brilliant time that by Lewis Ward. Certainly sets a great benchmark. 1:49.535 is pokey to say the least. We've got Ben Shelcraft in the chat saying, I like that Dan's injury update is becoming a permanent segment in each broadcast, and he's absolutely right, it is. Good to see Sean Gardner as well. Ian Holland, Martin Kenyon saying, I don't like it. I'm not sure whether he means the circuit, the car, us, or the new song that we had at the start of the broadcast. Here comes Rob Sharp across the line. 8th place at the moment for Rob. Does he move up any further with those two improvements in the final sectors? No, he doesn't. Martin Kenyon, speak of the devil, about to cross the line in the gorgeous Yorkshire Spirit Racing Aston Martin. That's surely an improvement for Martin. And yes, it is. Goes up to 19th place, 1:52.689. Not a shabby lap by any stretch. As here comes Christian Saruta. Surely a fast lap from him, maybe even from Drew Fletcher behind him as well. Saruta goes 4th. And Drew Fletcher, where does he end up? 23rd for Drew with that initial lap. A purple sector from Simon Povey there, though, Ed. And Guy Edwards going quick as well. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there is. So with the purple sector, but nothing else in the lap. So I think he had a big push. Oh no, he does actually. No, he doesn't actually improve, does he? I was just looking at the times, and Haven't seen anything come through for Simon, so he was pushing hard, but just not quite there. Here we go, though. The driver's out on the circuit. Oh, Dominic Brennan has a bit of a moment. We just see him in the gravel there, pushing a little bit too hard, as Lewis Ward has 2 purple sectors now on this lap. I think he's actually just come into the pits.
He has, yeah. He's just decided to abort that lap. Dominic Brennan just having a little spin there around the far section of the circuit as he went out of Drysack towards Aspar. And he's now managed to get back onto the circuit. Heinz Mayer going quite well. 15th place for him at the moment in the Orris Racing Green machine. Another one of those drivers that pops up and down the order quite a lot, to be fair, does Heinz. And to be fair, I think the Porsche is a little bit stronger here. Like you said before, Ed, it's playing to their strength slightly, which is nice to see, because in the first couple of seasons, the Porsche was definitely the car to be in. Well, no, sorry, in Season 1 it was, and then Season 2 it was absolutely not the car to be in. But some of these guys that are staying truthful to it and staying faithful have really brought it back to life. Same with the BMW as well. Niles Corr and Christopher Smith really doing this car justice at the moment this season. But Niles Corr, I mean, he was race leader for quite a bit at Daytona as well, and we thought that he was going to be the man to take the race win. He corrected himself actually on the speed of the BMW after the last race, which was very kind of him, to be fair. He said he just wanted to share his thoughts and let us know after we'd obviously mentioned the pace of the car, and he disagreed that it was rapid. But yeah, he says it's not everything, the balance of performance. It's about how well you can push the car to its limits. Yeah, basically just saying that it is fast in a straight line.
Yeah, it's saying a lot of it is down as well just to the strength of acceleration in McLaren. While the McLaren doesn't necessarily have the greatest top end, it just goes so well out of the corners that even though that's another strength of the BMW, it isn't that noticeable in terms of the BMW strength, which is the straight line speed. But if you get into the slipstream, and there are some areas here at Jerez where if you do get into the slipstream, you can properly catch up and maybe make some moves down the inside into some of these braking zones. I think we're going to start to see maybe that BMW have a bit of a good result again here tonight. We'll see though, because it is currently McLaren's occupying the front row spots. Lewis Ward and Simon Povey battling away. James Holman has had the pace within him in the Porsche, but it's just about getting it all together at the right time on the circuit. And I think here at Jerez, you don't have too many opportunities where the tyres are at their very best, especially with the track temperatures as high as they are. The tyres warm up so quickly that instead of it being sort of the 2 laps, sometimes even 3 to get into the window, it's probably just on the outlap with working the tyres, getting the heat through to them. And then from then on out, when you're pushing hard, you can start to feel it overheat almost, and then you've got not a lot left for any sort of second attempts at getting the quick times in.
Yeah, you've really got to work these sessions out and play them bit by bit, haven't you? You can't overdo it in one individual part. We'll see a lot of drivers a lot of the time just getting banker laps in and just getting quicker and quicker as time goes on. I'm afraid that Philip Hopley, who we will just see blink in and out for a second, has been having some severe connection issues this evening, and he's been disconnecting time and time again as practice has gone on. So hopefully it doesn't affect anybody else's race. Spoke to Dan McCauley after the previous round. He was frustrated at James Holman's connection, of course, because like we said, it didn't look like he was confident enough to go by because he wasn't sure where James' car was going to be at the time. James apologised profusely for it, and it was good that they found out what the issue was. But it's obviously something that drivers need to consider when having those issues. There's Mark Johnson across the line in the gorgeous Aston Martin. Kim Such has just improved behind Mark, but Mark stays in 19th place at the moment. Highest placed Aston Martin, Byron Crawford in the 11 tenths Racing Team car. Again, Ed, unfortunately, the Aston Martin's not having a great time here. It has really suffered so far this season, hasn't it?
It is. It's a crying shame, and I'm sort of an advocate for the Aston Martin. I never really thought that when it was released, it was overpowered, because I had driven the McLaren in the same build when the Aston Martin was introduced, and I found that it was actually quicker. But by the time when we had the, I think in season 1, I'd already declared that I was changing car. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, all of a sudden the McLaren's really fast now. And that was one that was just sort of left to go under the radar. So the McLaren sort of stayed at that level of pace. Then when they nerfed the BMW, because obviously everyone was driving the newer car, all of the top drivers were doing well and winning in it, so that looked like the car was maybe more powerful than it was. Then all of a sudden, now that people have rediscovered the McLaren in addition to the Mercedes, all of a sudden the poor Aston Martins haven't really been bumped back up to how they were before, which is a shame, but I'm fairly certain that Sunday the Aston will have its time in the spotlight yet again. But for now, we do have these lovely looking McLarens out there leading the way. Lovely livery that we're watching now for the boosted cars.
Sorry.
As we switch to Dan McCauley instead. But again, lovely livery on the Apex Race Academy cars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite intriguing, actually. We've got Dan and Dom together. It sound like a really bad rip-off comedy duo, don't they? Dan and Dom in 9th and 10th place. And then their teammates in the same order, Lewis Ward and Simon Povey, 1st and 2nd. Then we've got a bunch of the RD SimSport cars in there. James Holman 3rd, Guy Edwards 4th, Callum Brandt 6th, the championship leader in 6th position at the moment in the Mercedes. And then Christopher Smith just outside of the top 10 for RD SimSport as well. So they've got a great representation here in this championship. And of course, they're all going very, very well at this point in time. Unfortunately, none of the RD SimSport 3 drivers here tonight by the look of it. So hopefully we get them back for later rounds. We've got 27 cars here for this evening. So a bit of a smaller grid, but still a big beefy one at that, with plenty of competition for these drivers, and 20 places in these races score points, Ed. So there's still the intrigue of drivers having to work to get championship points. And I mean, we do still get people celebrating one championship point, which is what I love. That's the reason that we do it, because you know, if you are a driver that's a bit further down the order, you'll be underwhelmed if you just score, you know, 10, 15 points a race for finishing 38th or something. But if you can get into a top 20 and work towards that and get a championship point, even if it's just one, I don't know, it just, the reward means a little bit more, I think, and it's nice to see that drivers reflect that.
Yeah, it's something that we see a lot of the time in the Formula One Championship as well. We've had all of the drama around those sort of final points playing positions time and time again in the races. There we have another one next week where we might be seeing the title decided, so that's something to look forward to
tomorrow
here on Chaz Draycott Media. Yeah, tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow where the title might be decided, so that's something to look forward to. But there's still a little while left to go in qualifying here. And of course, the race right after. It's Lewis Ward and Simon Povey still 1st and 2nd. James Holman is there or thereabouts, but I just think is not quite getting the car into the right window. Track temperatures are so difficult to really get the best of and to get the car into that window. Dominic Brennan, I'm surprised that he's not quite had the same level of pace that we saw in practice, only 8th fastest. Is it maybe the circuit is just getting a little bit too hot for the drivers out there? Because I haven't seen too many improvements. No, it's actually come down in temperature.
It's quite interesting that actually that it's come down by a little bit, but I suppose it's, what, 3:30 in the afternoon in the simulator, so it's going to start gradually getting a little bit cooler, I think, but as the race goes on it might maintain that. So we'll keep our eye on the track temperatures. We're just staying with Dominic Brennan because I think he's one of the last cars that crossed the line to go on to a lap, and there was no real major improvements behind. Callum Brandt's actually done a green sector on his lap. Not sure if the others were enough to offset that. If I was speaking English it'd be good, wouldn't it? Let's see. No, he does not. So we'll go back to Dominic Brennan unless there's a major improvement by somebody, but it looks like everybody at this point is just sticking to what they know. And the track limits here are quite interesting, Ed, because obviously there's big blue and white curbs that you can use. A lot of the drivers are going almost all four wheels off like that, but clearly as long as you're on them blue and white curbs, it's all kosher.
Yeah, it's all good just to keep it within the confines of the circuit, and it does seem to be a track that, like I say, is very forgiving for track limits, just as well, to be fair, because the cars will be finding themselves outside of those white lines more often than not, with the understeer affecting the cars significantly as they are with the temperature. Look at this nice line there by Dominic Brennan. A few drivers trying to take too much pace and speed into that chicane.
That's a tough section, that, isn't it? Because there's no brake markers at all for that chicane. You just get the little cones in front of you. It just looks horrible to approach, doesn't it?
It's not the easiest, but it's something that does like maybe break up the flow of the circuit and can give some drivers opportunities to catch up if they're confident with the car as well. I think it's something that definitely benefits the Porsches more than anything else.
Yeah.
So gets them close just in time for the hairpin at Lorenzo before they run down into turn one. Could be a good little point there for maybe some Porsches to try and set up moves from the Ayrton Senna chicane onwards.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there's any more laps coming in. I think everybody is all done now with qualifying, so the session will tick over in just a few moments' time, everybody. But hello to those of you that are watching, whether you be on YouTube or on Facebook. Great to see everybody watching this evening yet again. Please make sure you like the video and, of course, subscribe and all of that good wonderful stuff. It's great to have you, everybody. And, of course, let us know what you think in chat, what your predictions are for the race, who you think will come out of this one on top, and what the conditions are going to be like for these cars in the later stages. Because we are wondering, aren't we, Ed, whether we'll see any drivers taking tyres, or all 4 tyres, more importantly, later on in the race. Because in most races we've had here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, we've seen drivers only take 2 tyres between their stints. And it looks like, oh goodness me, we're going to get a full formation lap here at Jerez, which is not something the drivers will enjoy. But that seems to be just what it's given us. I don't remember having a choice for a short one, so sorry. Oh, well, it gives the drivers, well, they say time to warm up the tyres, but I don't think they need to do much even to do that with the track temperatures that are, I think, going to be the main talking point from this evening, the way the drivers are going to have to adapt themselves to the situation out on the circuit. So you see, though, Simon Povey up there at the front of the grid, just waiting for a few drivers to line up and then get ready for the full pace lap behind the pace car, the safety car, and then we can get underway with the action here at Jerez. Just seen the message from Rob Sutherland in the chat. Good to see you, Rob. Hope you're doing well, mate. He's just mentioned that it's a 1990s Super 1 TKM second row. That great job, RD. James Holman and Guy Edwards. So both obviously very accomplished in the world of karting. We'll go over your race grid, shall we? And we've got a bit more time to do it this time around, which is quite nice to see. So it's going to be Lewis Ward, reigning champion, on pole position with that awesome time of 1:49.535. He set that quite early on, and nobody was able to beat it, not even Simon Povey, who he beat by just under a tenth of a second. As mentioned by Rob Sutherland, it is a 90 Super 1 TKM second row. James Holman for RD Simsport and Guy Edwards for RD Simsport 2. It's interesting that they're going to be in different teams, of course, because RD Simsport is Callum Brandt, and James Holman. Guy Edwards teamed up with Christopher Smith. Christian Saruta is alongside Callum Brandt on the row 3 of the grid. Those two are going to be certainly having a lot of fun trying to pierce the front of the grid and get further forward. Niles Core is going to be trying to do that as well in the big beefy BMW. Only half a second separating the top 7, which is good. Dominic Brennan in 8th place. He'll be hoping to be right up there and helping Simon out, I think, in these early stages, because we know that the McLaren is going to be the one that suffers with the tyres. Rob Sharp is next up in 9th, with Dan McCauley joining him on row 5 of the grid. Christopher Smith is 11th, with Johnny Elia of 11 Tenths Racing Team joining him on row 6. Behind them, Tom Weston in 13th place. A good lap there by Tom, actually. Very well done indeed in car number 10. He's ahead of Byron Crawford in car 12. Then we have Heinz Mayer in the triple 2 machine, I should say. 15th place for him, ahead of Paul Goffin. Mark Johnson next up, ahead of Ben Gregory on row 9. Ben saying in the YouTube chat he's not enjoying this heat or this track. Understandable. Ryan Penny, 19th in car 99. Martin Kenyon rounds out the top 20. He got a quicker time than Kim Such just towards the end of that session. Kim lining up in 21st. Andrew Shepherd is next up in 22nd place. Then it's Fausto Pinto alongside John Roberts on row 12. Then we come to an all SRM Racing Team 13th row, which is Drew Fletcher in car 26. And then he lines up alongside P26, Andy Marston in car 111. And Philip Hopley joins us at the back of the grid. But as you'll see if we go to this shot here, his connection at the back end of the order here, Ed, is not the best. He's blinking in and out quite a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, he is, sadly. And sorry for the audio issues that has been plaguing my end. For some reason, my microphone decided to turn its gain up to a maximum. So I've reset it back to how it was before. Hopefully, it'll sound a little bit better, and I'll keep my eye for the rest of the evening.
Sounds good now, mate. Sounds very good.
Well, that's very good. Very good to know. So hopefully for the next hour, shouldn't have any more issues. Speaking of the next hour, who do you think is going to come out on top at the end, Chaz? Because it's interesting at the front row, but we know that the McLarens will struggle as the race goes on account of their high tyre wear.
Yeah, I think the pit stops are going to be more pivotal here, actually, than they have been in the past. I think it's going to be a very, very busy time for everybody involved here near the front of the pack. They've got a lot more to think about, basically, than what they would have done in some of the other rounds. Because, sure, there's strategy involved in a lot of them, but I think here it's going to be even more important. What about you, mate? Anyone that you're keeping your eye on in particular here? We know Callum Brandt's done good things strategy-wise before.
Yeah, Callum Brandt's been looking good. James Holman has been looking quick as well all evening long. Could be a first victory in quite some time for the Porsches as well. That is going to be a great storyline should it come to pass. But around the outside, Lewis Ward will start to set the pace now. The pace car has come in. And the fourth round will get underway in just a moment.
And the lights are already going out now, and round 4 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge is underway. And look at that, jousting at the front of the grid. Lewis Ward and Simon Povey completely side by side. James Holman goes in deep into turn 1, manages to keep it all under control. Will keep shimmying further and further back down the order. Check everybody's behaving themselves. Nice and tidy through the first couple of corners. Really, really good stuff. There's a move further up though as Callum Brandt has got past Christian Saruta. He's gained a position already in the opening stages. Dan McCauley there and Niles Corr side by side. Niles has lost 2 places in the opening exchange here, so he's going to be trying to get his way further forward again in the BMW. Dan's actually gained 2, so he's the highest mover within the top 10. Johnny Elia has made it into the top 10, starting 12th, and Ben Gregory has gone from 18th to 14th in just a couple of corners. Martin Kenyon with a typically good start as well, going from 20th to 17th. But it's Lewis Ward down in towards Dry Sack for the first time. Side by side behind them, Christian Saruta and Dominic Brennan getting scrappy in the middle. It's exactly what we wanted, Ed. A nice clean start, plenty of battling going on.
Yeah, it's maybe a start to forget from Niels Corr, loses 2 positions down into 9th place now, just ahead of Johnny Elia, who himself actually gained 2 positions. So it's a sort of race contrasting fortunes already for the BMW. In fact, actually, the BMWs are struggling to get underway because the other car out there is the BMW of Christopher Smith, and he's also lost 2 places. So something about the start really didn't favour those BMWs. Potentially getting the car turned into turn 1 just wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah, and I feel with 2 right-handers at the start of the lap. Oh no, Kim Such is off. I was going to say with 2 right-handers at the start of the lap, it probably wasn't the best thing to be on the outside, and I think both of those guys were on the outside at the early parts. Is Kim just going to clip the grass here and then the gravel? Oh, he's just lost it on his own out of the right-hander. That's a big, big hit into the wall, that is, for Kim. A lot of people have been saying as well that out of the chicane, especially in the mid part of a stint and later on into the race, the cars become a real handful when the tyres start to burn up slightly. Look at how pretty our grid is here. We've got a number of cars, all from similar teams at the front of the pack, and it looks fantastic. It really does. So many great, well-represented teams at the front of this. And I tell you what, Rob Sharp, once again, still impressing me here. So too is Johnny Elia. Outside of sort of Spontex, RD and Apex, we've got Christian Saruta, Johnny Elia and Rob Sharp. Really impressing as ever. And it's just great to see the little Porsche still right up there at the front of the pack in the form of Rob Sharp, and of course James Holman as well, sneaking through amongst all these Mercedes and McLarens.
Yeah, it does look a little bit out of place, doesn't it? The quite diddy looking little Porsche compared to the quite beefy looking Mercedes. 3 of them in behind James Holman at the moment. Currently leads 3 of the 3 RD SimSport cars up inside of the top 10. I wonder if we're going to see any team orders at play here, Chaz, because Callum Brandt, he has a championship to fight for. He is the current leader. I think only by 1 point though, as Lewis Ward got an extra one for pole position.
Yeah, absolutely.
So every position that Callum Brandt can gain will be pivotal later on.
Yeah, it really will, and those individual points for a pole position can certainly change a championship. We've seen it before in many forms, as Mark Johnson here follows a battle between Martin Kenyon and Heinz Mayer. It's very close there. Martin has to get out of it. Now Mark has to get out of it. The car behind Andrew Shepherd, and then the car behind him, Ryan Penny, all queuing up. Oh no, and Johnson's moved across the front of Penny. They're both going to roll back into the road. Oh, I said Johnson's moved across. Apologies, it wasn't Mark at all, was it? I was looking at names on the timing tower. It was Andrew Shepherd. He just moved over on Ryan when Ryan was trying to get through, and unfortunately caused a very unnecessary incident there. You can see, look, Ryan gets the run. Oh, they do move around a little bit, to be fair, both of them, but It's that second hit. That's such a shame for Ryan Penny, though, isn't it?
It looks like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If we look at it here, there's room for Ryan Penny there on the left-hand side. I think it looks from that angle that Ryan Penny sort of ran into the back almost.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There was
Andrew Shepherd. It was one that I think at the speed that they were going and at such an early stage would feel so congested. It's just one little misjudgment can have a big incident.
Yeah, I don't think that Andrew would have moved over if he knew there was an overlap. So it was the tiniest of overlaps, which is why it turned the car around so quickly. And at the end of the day, I think Ryan was just expecting Andrew to go over to the right, as everyone else was naturally going to, because that's where the racing line goes. And then Andrew decided to obviously not do that and try and defend the inside line, but it was just too late when he made that decision, and there was already a slight overlap. But yeah, quite the racing incident, I have to agree. It's just a bit of a shame that it happened so early on for the both of them. It's interesting to see that the cars, I was going to say, well, other than in the case of Christian Saruta and Callum Brandt, the cars aren't sat as closely to each other as we've seen before. There's not many great opportunities to slipstream around this track. So it looks like overtaking is going to be difficult, but also following the car in front even looks difficult at this point. Lewis Ward's doing a great job of it at the very front of the field because he doesn't have to worry about anybody else's aero wash. They're not the most aero-dependent cars in the world, are they, Ed? But it certainly makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think it's something that's definitely noticeable in the McLarens, but I say actually Lewis Ward and Simon Povey matching, I think, their lap times, at least fairly closely to one another. So they're both pushing incredibly hard out there, but it's something that I haven't seen, I think, ever in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, is that someone is actually able to have Simon Povey behind them and actually drive away from it.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, as much as we do blow smoke up Simon's backside, he is an unbelievably fast driver. I'm very honoured to have him running in the Spontex CDM Esports colours, whether that be in the standard livery or the Scourers livery. He, Dominic Brennan, and a friend of theirs actually did the Watkins Glen 6 Hour in the Cadillac prototype. We actually painted that car and it looked amazing, I must say. And unfortunately, it was Simon that binned it. Not that he'd want me to tell you about that, but yeah, Simon binned it. Anyway, it was a good event for them, at least. They had fun, I think. But we've got an interesting little quartet here developing, which is, of course, Guy Edwards, Christian Saruta, Dominic Brennan, and then Dan McCauley just about behind them, actually, is making it nearly a quintet, but he's got the BMW filling the rearview mirror. Niles Core in that gorgeous spec-mapped Chicane Online racing machine. The spec map, basically the little file that tells iRacing which bits of the car are matte, which are glossy, which are metallic. And you can see, rather than it just be a solid black car, it's got this gorgeous half sheen over it. It looks fantastic, it really does. And it makes me wonder why I've never really done that with any cars of my own. But yeah, Chicane Online Racing have done a great job with this BMW. You'll see it really nicely around here now as he comes into the hairpin. It's got this great sheen over it.
Daytona, didn't we, as well, with the sunset just gleaming off the different elements of these sort of dark spec map parts. It was just a real sight.
It really is, and Niles Core at the wheel is a real sight as well. He's been fantastic so far this season. Look at all the personal bests coming in as well, Ed. Is the temperature going down? No, it's staying about 52 degrees at the moment. It's pretty humid. It's 55% humidity, so it's not the worst thing in the world. And of course, everybody, it's the 4th of July, so happy Independence Day to everybody in the United States. We hope you're having a wonderful time. It's just ironic that this is the first round of the championship where we're not racing in the United States, so sorry about that. But it's all right. We're here to race in Spain and enjoy ourselves in the sunshine instead.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit cagey there, not enjoying himself in the sunshine at all, as Ben Gregory, who almost comes under fire from Tom Weston. Ben has been quite vocal with his sort of dislike of the circuit. Sometimes he's been saying that he feels at a loss of how to drive the circuit around here. It's obviously tricky, especially coming into the Ayrton Senna chicane, where you don't have many brake markers. It's difficult to properly find the line, your braking markers and everything. But at the moment, he's had a good start to the race, hasn't he? Up 4 positions into 14th place, and that'll be some good points going the way of boosted motorsport if he's able to hang on to it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing a good job. Like you say, that start was really crucial. But to be fair, Tom Weston behind him, I mean, he may have lost 2 places from where he started, but Tom's unlocked some real pace at the moment. He's doing really well in this Mercedes. He had a bit of a shaky start to his campaign last season in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, but he's really found his feet here. And of course, doing more and more things every day with Sim Racing community. They're doing driver coaching now as well. And he's been doing a few more YouTube videos and putting some content out on their channel with their head driver coach at Spa-Francorchamps. And right now he's between Ben Gregory and Paul Goffin, two absolute stalwarts of this championship, just outside of the top 10. We've got a battle going on further down now between Ryan Penny and John Roberts. I'm amazed that Ryan Penny's car has been able to continue at full chat, actually. He's not been into the pits either, so clearly made of some solid stuff, that Porsche, because it took one hell of a whack in the left-hand side, and Ryan has managed to keep it going. It's moving around a little bit, which suggests to me that it's not in the best of health, but Ryan's doing a great job at wrangling that thing. And to be fair, if you're talking about good-looking cars and beautiful spec maps, I mean, boy, oh boy, that boosted motorsport Mercedes, that is a handsome car, isn't it? The boosted liveries have always been wonderful and colourful, but this is one of their very finest, this latest one.
Yeah, it's been really nice just to see them unveil the liveries. I think they showed off some of them at the special event that we had at just before this one. It was the Road America, was it 200 kilometres?
400 kilometres.
400 kilometres.
Yeah.
Was that long of a race? It didn't feel like it. It felt like it flew by, didn't it?
Oh, don't lie, Ed. It was boring.
I enjoyed it. I don't know about you. I loved it.
No, it was a good fun event. It was nice to have such a long race because, you know, even the hour-long races we have here, yeah, sure, they're not short races, but most sprint GT races around the world are usually an hour. So we get this interesting format here where instead of just a straight sprint, we have to have a pit stop. It's not for a driver change, but of course, due to a limit on fuel, drivers don't have any options other than to pit, so keeps it a little bit more spiced up. But having so many pit stops over what it was like nearly 3-hour race, wasn't it, in the end, or something daft like that, nearly 2 hours 45 minutes, it was just great to see how many of the drivers were getting bothered by fatigue later on that we don't see elements of in this championship because the races aren't even half as long as that. So yeah, it was cool to see a few more different factors making their way in, and I'm sure Rob Sharp is a factor that's trying to make his way further into the top 10. He's keeping it nice and smooth at the moment. You could say it's running like clockwork in the Orris racing machine, but it seems nice and chill and calm in here. Hopefully he's got the aircon on because, I mean, I'm not sure about you, Ed, but I think even this place, it looks hot outside. It looks like a Spanish circuit, doesn't it? You can see how a lot of the usual greenery is sort of a faded brown colour. It looks like a hot place to be, Jerez, right now, doesn't it? I'm feeling a bit sweaty looking at it.
Yeah, it's certainly difficult for the drivers out there. And actually, talk about the heat. Has potentially Lewis Ward been pushing too hard on a hot track? Because Simon Povey has really started to close that gap down quite substantially. Lewis's best lap time of the race was a 1 minute 49.29. His last lap was a 1 minute 50.0.
Yeah.
So it's about 7/10. It's only been, what, best part of 12 minutes gone in the race. So he's already used a decent chunk of his tyre performance up already. And James Holman in the Porsche might be the quickest of the bunch of this three up in the lead of the race. Also, just going to keep my eyes as well on the pace of the Mercedes. Guy was kind of and Christian Cerruto, because we know that car, it comes very good later on in the races, as we've seen time and time again displayed by the driver in 5th place, Callum Brandt.
Yeah, for sure. And even the BMWs, you know, they could get a little bit of hatch a little bit of a plan for us later in the race, let's say, where they gradually get quicker and quicker as well. We've still got these little groups together. We've got Ben Gregory still under pressure from Tom Weston right now out of the final corner. That Mercedes is looking good, isn't it? Certainly the McLarens are struggling, even at this early stage, not even a quarter of the way through the race. Certainly could throw a lot of curveballs in terms of the championship here, because that's the thing, I suppose. People often do say that the McLaren is the quickest of the cars, but for these guys that are driving it now, this is where it doesn't come so good, as Tom Weston gets a little bit attacky behind Ben Gregory and now loses a bit of time to him as he tries another move. Very aggressive defending by Ben, but he has to do it, I suppose. He has to prove to Tom that he's not going to muck about. But look at the way the car is not behaving through there. A long, fast right-hander down towards Cito Pons.
Absolute nightmare in this heat, this McLaren. You can see it's both understeering out the corner, driving wide, but it's also just not turning in, or not rather getting any drive out of the corners. As you can see there against the BMW, it just doesn't have the same level of drive. All the way around the outside is Niels Kaur going to get one over on Dan McCauley. Still another left-hander, and the Scotsman I think it's just about able to survive. He's putting his car in all the right places, but they're
Except
slowing
that one.
another down. Look at that, though. What a lovely cutback. That's the grip there of the BMW on full display. It has the tyres to pull off such a move. And look at that, the McLaren. It just doesn't have anything left.
No, it's full on Ian Beale right now, the McLaren, as Rob Sharp
You picked up on that.
also looking for an opportunity. Oh, it's just so easy to do that, though, isn't it, Rob? He's just pushed that a little bit too hard into there, just trying to take advantage. You know, it's easy to get excited by what's going on in front of you and just overdo it slightly yourself. So Rob just having to recuperate for just a second there. Ben Gregory still ahead of Tom Weston, but now they've got more and more cars piling behind. Paul Goffin, Heinz Mayer, Mark Johnson is about a second back off this as well, so plenty of battles going on. We've also got Guy Edwards, Callum Brandt, Christian Zaruta and Dominic Brennan all up there as well. Apparently Jakub Szymanski slept in.
Oh, no.
Oh no, he took a nap at 7 and forgot to settle. Oh, well, that's it, mate. You played nap roulette there and you've definitely lost.
Oh, absolutely.
Unlucky.
Yeah, it's caught all of us out at one stage or another.
That's why I can't nap, you see, Ed. I can't do it. After
You just
doing
like hibernate.
After doing nights a few months ago, getting home at 7 a.m. and going to sleep till 2 in the afternoon ruined me. I cannot sleep in the day because I forget what year it is when I wake up. We've got a great battle going on
It's
here.
a nightmare, isn't it?
It's horrible.
just so difficult. Look at this. Yeah, I mean, you picked up on a great chance. Look at this. They're starting to close up to one another. The pace is definitely there in the Porsche. I just want to say, though, what a move that was actually by Neil Scott. We didn't really highlight it too much. We were busy talking about the tyres, but he set it up so far in advance, put Dan McCauley out of position so many times, and then took great advantage of it right where there was no room for it to sort of go any longer. There was the move up the inside initially by Niels Court. He was around the outside, but he kept the car there. You can see that the car has still got enough grip to fight with it.
Look at
and
that.
then McCauley, he sees the drive out of the corner by Niels Court. It's just got so much more traction than him. And while he tries to hold the inside, there's just no grip at the front end of that car. And it's just then, when slight overlap occurs around the outside, no way to keep fighting it. And then down the inside into the chicane, has to concede the position. Does well, though, doesn't Dan, to not lose a second one to Rob Sharp.
Yeah, he put the car in the right place there. He made sure that he let Niles through without losing too much time when they got into the chicane. He conceded that in the best way because then it meant that Rob Sharp was not able to nip through as well. And obviously that's why he had to get on the brakes and get out of it. Good battle going on here, actually. Paul Goffin, Heinz Mayer and Mark Johnson involved. It's McLaren, Porsche and Aston Martin. And then in front of that, of course, we have another Aston Martin... typical, I'll say the wrong manufacturer. Another Mercedes and another McLaren having a fight as well, although Ben Gregory's actually gapped Tom Weston a little bit on that previous lap. He got 4/10 on him last time round. Dan McCauley has now lost a place to Rob Sharp as well. Rob Sharp now moving up into P9. Let's have a look at how he did that. Oh, down the inside into the hairpin. Lovely stuff by Rob. Late on the brakes. Dan gives him plenty of room. And again, another example of the respectful racing we see in this championship, Ed. There may be hard fights and big battles going on, but everybody races as cleanly as they can here, and I know it's usually the aim of all championships, but we really do have a fantastic set of people here that are really understanding about their racing and very fair about it too.
Yeah, it was a great show of the Porsche's, one of its biggest strengths really is just the ability to brake late, to brake hard, but to still keep the rotation into the car and to get the moves done. That's something that this Cayman really does excel at. There's a bit of a blink there for Simon Povey. Very rarely seen. Might have thrown James Holman just off a little bit because that gap did emerge a little bit more, sort of grow slightly coming out of the centre chicane. But I don't know if James necessarily wants to fight too much here. Might be just quite content to stay in behind, save a bit of fuel, and see what he can do to make these tyres last a little bit longer, because then at the end of the race, his tyres won't have to do as long of a racer distance that way. Racer distance, race distance.
The two Mercedes here of RD Simsport 2 and RD Simsport, Guy Edwards and Callum Brandt, making their way forward, as I'm afraid there's been some drama here further down. Drew Fletcher and Ryan Penny both off the road. Ryan has been priding himself on certain occasions of finishing ahead of Drew. There's been a little bit of a rivalry there developed by Ryan, it seems. This is the move down the inside into the chicane. Oh, I think Drew just went for the apex there, I'm afraid, and I don't think he expected Ryan to be fully alongside. And then the two of them scarper off the edge of the circuit. Get back, get away. As I think Ryan's just had a little bit of a moment now out of the final hairpin as well. That car has taken a good few knocks though this race. It's a real Frankenstein's monster of a Porsche right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ryan maybe pit a little bit earlier than a few others to get that thing fixed. As again, Tom Weston has closed back up to Ben Gregory. He's having a great race, is Tom. He's really handling these conditions well.
Oh, amazing. Ben's been able to hang on for as long as he has as well, because we know that the McLaren is struggling. So, Ben Gregory's done such a good job of keeping it on the circuit. I mean, there's been a few times where he's run wide out of some of the corners. I think, isn't it out of Michelin? A few times I think he's run just slightly wide. But he's able to get back on and keep defending. Lois Ward and Simon Povey, they've closed up as well. The top three all within 1 second. And when do you think we're going to start to see them properly start to fight? I know they don't have a lot of life in the tyres, but with the pit stops looming ever present on the horizon, surely some drivers might decide to try their luck.
I don't know, you know. I'm not sure that Simon's going to try fighting this because he knows that the tyres are going to be destroyed, and he knows that James Holman will have an easy time of it if he holds him and Lewis up as well. And then James Holman will have track position before they even pit. So I think James is just going to react to what these guys do here. Or he might try and extend the stint, because I feel that once they get within a certain window with the fuel, Lewis and Simon will pit as soon as they can for new boots, because they know that the pace isn't quite there right now, and James is just sitting there loving it. So it could be one of two things. He'll either react and pit when they do, just so they're on a level when they come back out, or because he's got a bit more life in the tyres at this point, he'll stay out for a lot longer and really stretch it. But then again, we normally do see a stop before the half-hour mark, so I'm not sure really, Ed. It's an interesting one to call right now, I have to say. Difficult one at that as well.
I'm so glad you've switched over to Callum Brandt, because what did we see in the first round of this season? What was his ace in the hole? Only doing one pit stop.
Yes.
It's a circuit with plenty of corners, nothing like Daytona or any other circuits we've been to besides potentially Mid-Ohio. Still some straights, but a lot of corners, a lot of areas to save the fuel. Might we see yet another one-stop masterclass from the RD Sim Sport boys?
We may well do, Ed. There we go. Pretend that was a one take. But I don't know whether he's just sitting behind his teammate in, I was going to say saving fuel, but I'm not sure he will be doing that much of it right now. We'll have to see. But I just genuinely think tonight that Callum might not have the pace that we've seen him have before, because even at Mid-Ohio we saw him push on a little bit and climb up as he goes late on the brakes there, nearly hits the back of his teammate even. He was probably typing in chat telling me to shut up and stop talking rubbish about his pace. But I don't know. I'm not sure he will do. I mean, Christian Ceruta's normally right up there too, and he's been sat behind these guys. Dominic Brennan obviously trying to just stick with them at the moment as well. Listen to the lift around there in the McLaren. Oh, they really are on the limit here and trying to get the most out of these cars on tyres that aren't behaving. I think even some of the Mercedes are struggling a little bit now, because you saw Christian Ceruta there didn't have a comfortable time at all around that corner. This little rivalry is still going on a bit further down. Ryan Penny chasing down Drew Fletcher in the SRM Racing Team B McLaren. I love that Orris Racing purple livery. It's so cool. So cool. Looks really smart in those colours, and the guys have done a good job of painting it. But yeah, there's a lot of different battles going on here, Ed, that I really cannot call at this moment in time. Fausto Pinto's enjoying a little bit of fresh air, with John Roberts just under a second behind him in the Mercedes. Then Drew Fletcher is a bit further back from that. The car behind them there is Andrew Shepherd, and he's a lap down. Are we going to see pit stops from these guys? I don't think we are at this point. Simon blinks in and out again there. That's not good. Maybe Laura's on Netflix now. I don't know.
Maybe.
We'll have to see. But
maybe she's tuned in watching the stream, using all the bandwidth there as well.
Yeah, hi Laura. Oh, there we go. That stinks of pit stop, doesn't it? Absolutely stinks of it. So, into the pits come the leaders. Oh, nearly making a meal of it as well. And as expected, James Holman stays out. Oh no, Guy Edwards is off. And Callum Brandt off. Oh no,
what's gone on there?
They've overdone it. I knew that this would happen. I saw some drivers in practice really pushing it. And look, Callum Brandt's gone into his teammate. Christian Cerruta goes through. Dominic Brennan nearly gets collected as well. Oh, it's like Coulthard and Adelaide all over again. Oh, look who else has
I want to
stayed
see
out.
that on board from. Oh yeah, Lewis Corus going on as well. I just want to see that from the point of view of Christian Cerruta, because I don't think he's going to be getting too many easier positions than those into the pit lane. Look at this, just seeing the two RD Sport drivers come to blows, and he goes, right, thank you very much. Love it.
I feel a bit sorry for Dominic Brennan there, actually, as he got caught up by Callum. Obviously, Callum was diving out of the way to make sure his teammate could get back on safely as easily as possible. But yeah, I feel a little bit sorry there for Dominic Brennan having to jump out of the way.
He's gained a lot of ground there, actually. He's only 2 seconds back from Lewis Ward, and Simon Povey's jumped Lewis into what could be the lead of the race when James Holman makes his pit stop.
Dan McCauley right in front of them as well. Dan McCauley was only in the pits for 10 seconds. What's this all about? So Dan has clearly short-fueled it, and he's taking his lighter stint here, and this is really going to help Lewis out because he's going to be right in front of Simon Povey, nearly making contact with him as they go round Cito Pons around the right-hander. Bit of a flash there from Simon. To be fair, him and Dan really do get on, both of them into their BMXing as well. Really, really good friends now. We're in a hilarious group chat together, I must say, as Simon now sends it up the inside, tries to go late. He's really attacking because he knows he needs to get the most out of these tyres while they're on like this. Christian Cerruta is not far off the back of it, though. You're absolutely right.
This is perfect for Christian because they're slowing each other down. Also perfect for James Holman because they're stuck behind a car which presumably has not taken tyres. So Dan McCauley will be slower out there and is likely to take his tyres later on in the race to have a quick car at the end when everyone else has got their tyres a little bit more worn. Very smart this by Dan McCauley, but it might have an adverse effect on Lewis Ward, his teammate, and of course Simon Povey, because it's giving James Holman perfectly clear track to properly charge and go for it while his rivals stuck behind a car that might just be a little bit slower. Here we go then. Wait to see that car come out of the pit lane. When is that car going to start to get moving? The Porsche comes down now and gets up and rolling. He might just be into the lead of the race, but by how big will the gap be? Quite a bit, actually, by the looks of things.
Although it's a long pit exit here, so you need to be careful. Wow, look at that! James Holman's gone. See you later, son. James Holman with that extra lap. Look at that. He has absolutely gone up the road from these boys. As here comes Simon Povey. Big send down the inside of Dan McCauley. He gets out of the way of his teammate as well. And Lewis goes through with him. So these two are now unleashed in front of McCauley in the McLaren. Dan's done his job there. He's made sure that Simon could not capitalise on the fact that he had a quicker pit stop than Lewis. Great teamwork, and to be fair, I'd say it's a great sacrifice from Dan McCauley because unfortunately, I think we all know he's going to fall away a little bit now. Rob Sharp is ahead of Niles Core further down as well.
Callum Brandt has come into the pits again, so he might have had a penalty for the pit lane incident.
Oh, Callum. We were expecting, obviously, a big thing and a big strategy from him. He's taken tyres, but I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, he has got going again. I thought that might have been a quit there from Callum. I was hoping it wasn't, and luckily it's not. But still, that is a big, big shame for Callum Brandt. But it means now that he's taken tyres, he's fully fueled it, and he's gone, you know what, stuff it. We're going to go to the end and see what we can do. This is Dominic Brennan in 6th place, ahead of Guy Edwards now. God, there's been so much shuffling from those pit stops. We've got James Holman leading the race, and it's Simon Povey, Lewis Ward, Dan McCauley, Christian Cerruta, Dominic Brennan. Guy Edwards was at the front of that train before, now he's at the back of it. Rob Sharp is ahead of Niles Core. Johnny Ely is up there in 10th place. Christopher Smith is 11th. Byron Crawford, car 12, P12, is having a very lonely race right now, I have to say. Although, actually, no, I don't have to say, because Ben Gregory's within a second of him. Tom Weston lost a bit of time in his pit stop. He's down to 15th place now. But wow, a lot of shuffling has gone on here, and it's seen the little Porsche that could. James Holman at the front of the field. Great stuff to see. We knew he was quick, Ed, but he's made this one work as well. And to be fair, well, this would be the first not only podium for a Porsche this season, but it would also be the first win for a Porsche since, I'm going to find out. I'm going to have a look.
I want to say it might be the first win for a Porsche since Sebring in season 1.
Dominic Brennan won a couple of races late on in season 1
did he?
of the Porsche.
Oh, yes, he did, yeah.
Rob Sharp got a podium for Porsche last season. I don't think anybody else got one. They did not, so there was only one podium appearance, so it wasn't even in season 2 that we had a Porsche on the podium, let alone win a race. Looking back at the results of season 1, which was, what, end of August 2022? A long time ago now.
Yeah, quite a ways away.
We're going to be looking... Oh, it's going to take me a while to see this, actually, I must admit. No, Dominic Brennan won at Monza on the 2nd of August 2022. That was the last time a Porsche was on the podium in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. And James Holman currently leads this race. There's no guarantees yet, but he leads the race outright, and it's going to be the first win since then. Amazing.
Yeah, if he's able to hang on to it, of course.
Yeah.
This circuit is so difficult around here, even if you're out by yourself. Just one little mistake and that's going to be race over, because the runoff area is fairly close to seconds. Oh, there was a Porsche for a moment. I almost worried that I did something very, very bad there, but thankfully it was the... Well, not thankfully for Heinz Meyer, but thankfully for my sake, it was Heinz Meyer and not the race leader. Oh my word, that would have been one of the most fearsome curses that I've had in recent memory.
Callum Brandt then ahead of John Roberts now into the top 20 again, so back into a point scoring position, but that is
Look at the pace of the Porsche as well. He's extending. Sorry, Chaz.
No, he is. He absolutely is. Yeah, he's done a 149.58. Sorry, 149.94 last time out compared to the 150.17 of Simon Povey. Ben Gregory's just had a bit of a drama and gone off the circuit and then come back on again in his chase of Byron Crawford. I was going to say it's no consolation at all right now for Callum Brandt that he has 20th place and a point scoring position to his name. But then again, I hate to sound harsh, but it was his own mistake on the way in and it affected his teammate. He wasn't really the innocent party in that one, was Callum, as Dominic Brennan is getting hounded by this evil looking machine of Guy Edwards. Guy certainly knows what he's doing as well. He's been a great addition to the championship. He's faded into the middle of this sort of top 10 a few times so far this season, Ed, but again, he's been a great addition, really solid pace, and look at this now, down the inside of Brennan. Big move.
Yeah, Brennan's going to try and fight it, but there's just no grip there. Just trying to go for a switchback, but again, the car doesn't turn in enough. So Guy Edwards gets that move done very cleanly, and now might start to focus on catching up to Christian Saruta. But it's quite a big gap, isn't it, between 6th and 5th, around about 6 seconds. So it'll take some work, but there's still about half the race to go. Plenty of time to try and make up that deficit. I'm just going to keep looking at times. James Holman has actually done a purple first sector, so he's got plenty of pace.
He really has. I mean, the gap at the last time they crossed the line was about 3.7 seconds. It's going to be a little bit more than that this time as well, as he gets ahead of Simon Povey. It's a 149.87, a 149.92 for Simon Povey, and a 150.1 for Lewis Ward. So Holman is eking out that gap a tiny bit, but only a tiny bit at the moment. Dan McCauley's holding on quite well, actually, in 4th position at the moment. He's now just about a second ahead of Christian Saruta. Guy Edwards and Dominic Brennan obviously still glued to each other a little bit further back. Then you've got Rob Sharp, Niles Core behind that. Ryan Penny is about to be the next victim of Callum Brandt's run back through the order, as Ryan runs a little bit wide there out of the right-hander into the end centre chicane. And as they now exit towards the double apex right at Ferrari, Callum Brandt is going to be wishing he was in a Ferrari right now if it was quicker than any form of Mercedes. But up to 19th place. I'm intrigued to see where Callum ends up, though. We'll keep our eye on him as he goes through this race, because you never know what Callum can do. He can pull a rabbit out of a hat, can't he?
He certainly can, but I think he'll need, well, a very big rabbit to be pulled out of a very little hat, because it doesn't look like there's a lot for him in this race in terms of opportunities to make up too many more possessions, especially with his main championship rival, Lewis Ward. Seen him scoring some very good points with a provisional 3rd position, as Martin Kenyon does a little bit of circuit maintenance there, clipping the grass.
Or what's left of the grass?
Yeah, not a lot left of it.
No, in this hot weather.
As I say, you should cut it in summer or not cut it in summer.
I don't know, Ed. I'm not a horticulturist. I don't know. I've got a patio. I've not got a garden. I don't know.
Oh,
I know, it's disgusting, isn't it? Oh dear.
What's gone on here?
Or is
McCoy's in now.
Yeah,
No,
is it an oh
this
dear?
is what he was doing from the start.
Yes.
He obviously had a very short stop earlier on, and now this is the time where he comes in, takes the tyres, so he'll have a much faster car than those he was likely to come out into the circuit around. not sure if it's going to maybe be a great stretch for him because he will be now down further back in the order, but still the drivers ahead of him will need to make one more pit stop. So it could be very intriguing. As look at this, these two are properly battling now, aren't they? You can see Simon Bovey moving about, just trying to make his McLaren as wide as he can. It's starting to extend the gap now because it's over 4 seconds from second to first. I think Simon's just noticed that gap start to emerge a little bit too much and has thought, right, there isn't really a lot we can do in the McLaren to match the sort of pace the Porsche has at the moment. So why not just battle it out so you can take second?
Yeah, they're just absolutely going for it, aren't they? The two of them throwing hammer and tongs at each other, as we say. Battle going on here a bit further down between Andrew Marston and Kim Such as well. Just outside of the top 20 right now. Unfortunately, they're 43 seconds behind Ryan Penny. They've been involved in their own incidents during the first half of this race. So they're not quite fighting with the rest of the field as it stands. But still, all it takes is for someone to have a retirement and drop out, and they will gain, obviously, a freebie, and with it, a potential championship point. I do want to apologise as well, everybody. I know the quality of the streams should be a lot better based on the newer connection that I've got, that is obviously pushing out a much higher bitrate, but for some reason it still looks absolutely woeful in comparison to what I see from the feed, so I'm not sure quite what that is, whether it's just down to the encoding or what that goes through OBS, but I'll try and find ways to improve that because it really should look better in my opinion, and it just doesn't at the moment, so I apologise for that, everybody, and fingers crossed it will look better in future. Still, the race continues on, and Rob Sharp now is coming under pressure from Niles Core, isn't he here, Ed? It's not looking like an easy situation for him to follow, really, for Niles, because he's got that squirty little Porsche right in front of him that is doing an amazing job, it has to be said, but he just can't quite stick with him in some of the really twisty bits.
Yeah, there are some areas where the BMW is stronger and some other areas where the Porsche is very strong. But you say it's one that I think will start to maybe unravel as the tyres become more of a factor. Obviously, I think both of these two drivers did take tyres at the most recent stop here, over 20 seconds spent in the pits. So they're on sort of not exactly fresh rubber now, as they've done best part of about 15 minutes worth of running, or 10 minutes worth of running, there or thereabouts. Still, nevertheless, it's gonna start to, I think, maybe come undone for the BMWs. I just think there's no car better on its tyres than the Porsche at the moment. Speaking of good on the tyres, in terms of the pace there for James Holman, it is still going strong. Last time it was 0.3 of a second he extended the margin to Simon Povey by. Simon has actually extended the margin himself to Lewis Ward in third. So it's one to EDM Esports Scarrow's car, seemingly good to manage its tyres. Lewis Ward, I think, was pushing a little bit too hard for a few laps just to maybe unsettle Simon, and now he's potentially paying the price, which is what we saw actually, didn't we, Chaz, at the very start of this race when Lewis Ward was leading. He was very quick out the blocks, but then the tyres just started to come undone, maybe a few laps before Simon's.
Yeah, that was it. There was definitely a bit of progression in terms of whose tyres went off and when, but right now it's looking really good for James Holman with this lead. 4.2 seconds it's now gone up to. We've got Dan McCauley fighting his way back through the order. He's gone down the inside of Mark Johnson in the Aston Martin, through into turn one, parks it nicely on the apex, does Dan, to make sure there's no cutback available for Mark. Through and away he goes. Oh dearie me, who was that off the road there in front of them? Was that Tom Weston? It was. The car just completely goes around, and he manages to gather it all back up again, but it's just one of those moments where the back end of the Merc just steps away. Oh, he did clip the gravel actually, but he did a great job to get that stopped, didn't he?
Yeah, the barrier is not far away, so to get it stopped as quickly as he did is, well, something that will give him a big sigh of relief that he got away with that one just a little bit. speaking of actually getting away from competition, it's been Ben Gregory. He's had a great race so far, up 6 positions from the start of the race. And for a driver that said, "Oh, don't really know how to drive this track, it's just so difficult," he's certainly, seemingly, one of the best drivers out there in terms of getting to grips with the track.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one that there are certain drivers that are really struggling with this sort of place, that have a lot of experience from running in many different leagues before, and having to develop and adapt driving styles that suit new circuits to the calendar when they get added to the service. But it can just sometimes depend on a driving style that you'll just never quite get a circuit right. I mean, I really do struggle at some. A lot of American tracks with long, smooth corners that sort of gradually tighten really do my head in, to be honest with you. When it's a bit of a tilkodrome, which naturally I tend to hate anyway, I'm actually a little bit better at them because it's a straight line then a corner, and then a straight line then a corner, so it's a bit easier to get my head around. But yeah, there's certain tracks. I mean, this is obviously a lot more of an old school circuit. Jerez has been around for a long time. These are usually the ones that are more of a challenge for drivers, but naturally they provide better racing in most cases. So there's a bit of a balance to what we get compared to what we want and how it makes us feel as spectator and or driver. So yeah, it's certainly a coin with 2 sides or even more.
Yeah, definitely. And there's, like I say, certain tracks that do suit drivers more than others. At the moment, it's certainly suiting certain cars as well a little bit more than others. Actually, though, speaking of the cars, Byron Crawford isn't far away from a top 10 finish in the Aston Martin. He's been doing good, plugging away, getting some good results, and this could be a very good roll of points for an Aston Martin that has certainly been struggling out there in terms of pace in the race.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see it from Byron, one of the series supporters and sponsors from Blinds to Go. Again, very grateful to have him in the championship and grateful to have his support for said championship too. And right now he sits in 11th place. He's got a gap of 14 seconds ahead to Christopher Smith. There's a definite divide in the field there, but he's got a couple of seconds over Ben Gregory and then Paul Goffin behind him, so he can take it a little bit easier at the moment without worrying too much. Dan McCauley there just in the background ahead of Mark Johnson, trying to get away from that Aston. It seems like Mark is able to follow a little bit better than Dan is able to lead right now. He's certainly pushing the limits there as he goes through Ferrari. He doesn't want to fight Mark though, because that'll just slow down his run through the order further towards the front. James Holman now has about 5 seconds over Simon Povey and Lewis Ward, and that's one of the biggest lead margins we've actually seen in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge for quite a while, actually. It's interesting to see that.
Especially at this stage of the race, definitely. I mean, this is one that I think might come down a little bit because James Holman had a shorter initial pit stop by around about 3 or so seconds, but still, the gap is sufficient that even if he was to pit now and sort of then take those extra 3 seconds at the next pit stop in comparison to Simon Povey, he'd still have a 2-second advantage outside of the slipstream range and could continue to build and build on this very impressive gap that he's been able to create. I think coming out of the pits, it was around about 3 or so seconds, wasn't it? About 3.3. So over the course of this stint, he extended it by about close to 2 seconds.
Good stuff so far then from James Holman. A few more battles going on further down. Callum Brandt making his way up to the back of Martin Kenyon's Aston Martin, which is very floaty around the long right-hander. Callum gets a good run on the exit. Naturally, he's going to try and go down the inside into dry sack at the bottom of the hill. Hard onto the brakes he goes, and through a little bit further up the road from this. Dan McCauley is now under pressure again from Mark Johnson as these two get nice and friendly. Fausto Pinto and Ryan Penny are close together. Kim Such and his teammate Heinz Mayer are together on track. The gorgeous Orris Racing green Porsches. Obviously this great looking homage livery.
I love the little accents as well on the liveries, the yellow and the green.
Yeah.
Really is great to see them out there together on the circuit as well, just to highlight those little differences. Looks really wonderful.
Yeah, it really does. I love it when teams have different coloured wing mirrors, but they're only subtle changes between the two of them as well. That's the best bit, you know. They're not completely opposite colours. There are other teams that run that sort of idea as well, though. I mean, we've got SRM Racing Team A. Andy Marston has the black wing mirrors on his car. Paul Goffin runs the neon yellow, the day glow fluorescent ones. Andrew Shepherd and Drew Fletcher for SRM Racing Team B Well, one's in a Porsche, one's in a McLaren, so it's a little bit more obvious in their case. Unfortunately, though, the two of them are now out of the race by the look of it, so we will not be seeing them complete the race. So SRM Racing Team B having a bit of a tough night. This is Dominic Brennan, and by the look of it behind him, Ed, he's about to have a bit of a tougher night as well, because Rob Sharp and Niles Core, well, they're closing in here at the rate of a couple of tenths a lap on the Spontex CDM Esports Scourers McLaren. And again, that is important because this team currently leads the team's championship.
Yeah, they currently do. And they might continue to extend their advantage with Lewis Ward just in behind Simon Povey and Dan McCauley all the way down in 14th. But this isn't where Dan McCauley will finish the race. He's taken his pit stop. All the others will need to take one more. But not Christian Saruta as he comes into the pits for his second and presumably final pit stop.
Crawling his way down the pit lane. It's just painful. Johnny Elia and Christopher Smith in as well. So we're going to get a little bit more activity in the pit lane here. A quick word for the sponsors of the championship as well. Thank you very much to Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Blinds to Go, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Mydas Simulations for their support of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We love having you on board and of course hope that you continue to enjoy the championship thanks to them as well. As out of the pits goes Christian Saruta, and he will now rejoin the circuit with a couple of cars around him here. Actually, I think Ben Gregory is going to be... No, actually, he's not. I thought he was just about going to catch him up by the time we got to the end of the straight, but no. No such catching going on as Paul Goffin now closes in on the back of his fellow McLaren driver. Who else just pitted there, actually? We had Johnny Elia and Christopher Smith in. Christopher Smith's not really been standing out as much as he often does here, Ed. I don't think this is the circuit for any of his masterpiece strategy calls at this point yet.
No, and I think it might also partly be down to the track temperature. If it's a cooler circuit, you are able to maybe do a few little coy things with the fuel saving strategy. You can take more speed through the corners and not needing to power out too hard down the straights. Little things here and there that can add up to make strategy calls very difficult. But as you can see, like I said, not at the greatest of evenings for Christopher Smith. Still getting points on the board, but not as many as he would have hoped for. As Ryan Penny, look at this diving around the outside on Fausto Pinto. Nope, instead opting to use the grip and the drive out of the corner. You can see he's trying to park it on the apex is Fausto. Very smart, and the drive is not quite there for the Porsche. Look at them though, diving down onto the right hand side of the circuit, covering off now, darting to the left. Can Ryan Penny hang out around the outside? Is he again going to go for a switch? No, because again, parked brilliantly on the apex. That was very smart. I love that from Fausto.
Yeah, it was really good stuff, wasn't it? He went a little bit deep into the corner and Ryan expected the cutback, but unfortunately didn't quite react in time to the fact that Fausto did stick it to the apex. He's now gone down the inside again into the next left-hander. It's not often that you see him move down there into Aspar. That's a really brave bit of driving by Ryan Penny. Great respect from Pinto to give him the room. Oh, he's gone deep again, though, and he's overdone it, and Ryan Penny gets the mental advantage out of the corner as it goes through Angel Nieto into Peliqui, and manages to get the place now up into 19th position, and further forward into the points goes Ryan Penny as Byron Crawford, our star Aston Martin driver of this race, comes into the pits, or at least now comes back out of the pits. The gap now at the front of the field, Ed, is getting bigger and bigger. 6 seconds nearly for James Holman with 12 minutes left of round 4 in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. This has been a great round to the championship. This really has thrown everybody a curveball, I'd say. I've loved it.
Yeah, it has. A lot of the quickest drivers out there have been struggling, and it's given a real time for a driver who had a great time out last time at Daytona. Let's not forget James Holman was, like I said, actually one of the stars of the show, and now this is his time to soak up all of the spotlight as he comes into the pits for his final pit stop of the evening. He'll come out with only about 11 minutes remaining for him to try and hang on. What can Simon Povey and Lewis Ward do? Were they able to save fuel and have a short pit stop to maybe lower that advantage and give themselves some slipstream to work with for the race lead? Has James Holman been able to use all of that extra tyre grip to his advantage and just clear off down the road? We'll wait to see them come on to pit exit.
James has already gone, and Simon is still in front of Lewis, but only just.
Look at that gap. Absolutely monstrous. He comes out into a little bit of traffic, but importantly it is back marker traffic, so it will likely be getting out of his way very soon. In fact, he's got quite a nice, comfortable little window lot into to properly charge and to pull away from his main rivals.
Nice stuff, that. Very nice indeed by our race leader, theoretically anyway, James Holman. Rob Sharp is still in the middle of Dominic Brennan and Niles Corr, but it's Guy Edwards that now leads this race in the Mercedes car. Number 55 has found his way to the very front of the field. Ben Gregory's on his way out of the pit lane. Tom Weston just in his pit box now. Unfortunately for Tom, he's dropped away from Ben over the course of this race a little bit. That mistake that we saw earlier on has harmed his chances. But there's a lot more pit stops going on. It's still very busy down there. I'll say very busy, the 3 cars. It looks a lot more busy on our timing screen, I can tell you that for free. I'm sure Ed will vouch, but still, we've got Guy Edwards leading this race now. Surely he's going to come in this time round and hopefully not get rear-ended by his teammate this time round, Ed.
Fingers crossed. It's hopefully, I don't think his teammate is close enough for that to happen. It had to be something very dramatic for that to happen, as you can't see a single RT Sim Sport car out on the circuit other than Guy Edwards on shot. Into the pits he comes. No dramas this time, thankfully.
Flashing the lights as well, just
will
for safe
hand
measure.
over the race lead, I think, to Niels Corr, who carries on going.
Yeah, you'll see the BMW on the right-hand side of your shot. The absolute housing estate that it is makes its way somehow under that bridge and down towards turn 1, or up towards turn 1, I should say. I love that grandstand over the start-finish straight, though. It's like a massive UFO with all of the fans in there. Great piece of circuit, that. Real iconic building. It's almost like the Shanghai circuit buildings as well, which are obviously a little bit more iconic, to say the least, due to their amazing shape and colossal size. But 9 minutes to go here at Jerez, and it is James Holman theoretically leading this race. He's second on the road right now to Niles Corr in the BMW, who is getting the laps in at the front of the pack. Unfortunately, you don't get points for leading a lap in this championship, because otherwise I think I'd tear my hair out and I'd be up all night doing the points. But still, Niles Corr doing another good job here today. It's not an easy track for this BMW, and Christopher Smith, the same goes for him. They're both doing outstanding jobs considering the circumstances. And again, Mark Johnson, Byron Crawford, they're also doing great jobs at wrangling the Aston Martins around. But at this point, James Holman's looking good. Simon Povey in second place, fighting with championship rival Lewis Ward. But Lewis will be happy here though, Ed, because it's going to be big championship points over Callum Brandt. Sure, he's going to lose maybe 2 or 3 to Simon Povey, but I think he'll take that in this current market, won't he?
Yeah, I think it's all about perspective, isn't it? It's championships won and lost by just not making mistakes, really, and that's all you got to do is just focus on not making mistakes. You know that your main rivals, one of your main rivals at least, has had, well, some misfortune, to say the least, so just got to capitalise on it and bring home just a solid chunk of points more than anything else. As Niels Corr comes into the pits, and Niels has had some great racing here. Oh, look at this cheeky move at the inside time, Povey running wide, and look at Lewis Ward. He pounces and takes back what is provisionally, after when all the pit stops come through, it's likely to be second place.
Lovely, lovely job by Lewis Ward. And right now, what is the plan when you're Simon Povey? Was that a planned move to sit behind him, or is it genuine struggle for grip? Because that just looked too easy for Lewis. Was it a mistake by Simon? Ah, yeah, look, yeah, he gets out of it, yeah.
Just touched onto the grass, ran wide, and Lewis Ward pounced on it right away.
Yeah, I didn't even see the touch of the gravel there, sorry, Ed, the first time round. I just thought he'd let him go almost. It looked a bit strange.
It could have just been the pressure more than anything else. Obviously, with the tyres as well, it becomes harder to come back when you make a little mistake, a tiny little error. But it has a big influence on the podium. With Lewis Ward now up in second place. We'll just say as well, though, with Niels Corr into the pits, I did want to shine a spotlight on him because he had one of, I think, the moves of the race, wasn't it, when he was able to battle with, I believe it was Dan McCauley, for a good sort of few corners, the pair of them scrapping away, and it was, I think, excellent car placement and just setting up for the move. So many corners in advance by Niels that got the move done. Dan McCauley has got fresher tyres and is, I think, trying to maybe catch and pass Rob Sharp. Might be difficult because it is a Porsche that's so gone its tyres. Dan definitely has a bit more life there to fight with.
Yeah, definitely. Rob is in 8th place quite comfortably at the moment, but still that 2.3 second gap could come down. We'll keep our eyes on it, obviously, because Dan, again, will be one to affect the team's championship. Right now, it's looking very mixed between them all, though. I mean, RD Simsports Callum Brandt is obviously a long way down. Spontex CDM Esports Scourers have both their cars between the Apex Racing Academy cars. I think they might be actually even on points right now, the two teams, based on this, because sure, there's 2 positions between Dominic Brennan and Dan McCauley in Dom's favour, but with Lewis Ward being ahead of Simon Povey in 2nd and 3rd, I think there would be 2 points difference there as well. There would be. So yeah, they're actually going to score evenly on points by the look of it, based on where they are right now, which would mean that coming out of this round there would still just be 5 points between them in the standings, and RD Simsport, who are currently 3rd and 9 points off, would drop a little bit further back.
Yeah, just a little bit. But of course, James Holman is doing his bit to keep the fight alive for the team with his position out in front, 5 seconds clear of Lewis Ward. And we are set, aren't we, to see a very big moment in this championship. Could be James Holman's first race victory, the first race victory for a while for the Porsche Cayman as well. Won't be RD Simsport's first victory of the season, though. Taken, of course, by Callum Brandt at the opener. And actually, again, wasn't it at the second round?
My head's gone.
My head's gone as
my
well.
head's
I
gone.
don't think it was in the second round. It was at Road Atlanta, I think, if I can remember. Can't remember that one. It's an American track. They all sort of blend together, to be honest. It's too hot.
Oh,
too
some
hot to
people
think.
are going to hate that, Ed. Oh, we're going to get cancelled.
Do we have any Americans that race in this? I think we've got.
We usually have Blaine Sparling, but Blaine's not
Blaine
here tonight,
Sparling,
unfortunately. Neither is his teammate, actually.
Understandably, I think, to be fair, Scooter, a chicken house driver.
He's probably absolutely leathered right now.
Celebrating, to say the least.
I mean, yeah, he's obviously having a very lovely time sober, completely sober, with alcohol-free beer. Christian Saruta is having a lovely time, despite the fact that that BMW is all over the back of him, and that is one of the most evil front ends of any GT car that could be chasing you down. But the M4 of Niles Core, hey, there's one we've not come up with. He's doing quite well at the moment, and he's certainly showing his intention that he wants to make a move on Christian, but not quite where. He's just sort of putting his nose down the inside as a bit of a fake to say, I will try a move, which maybe not yet. We've had a moment for Heinz Mayer, I'm afraid, who's been off the road. Maybe just spun it on the exit here. Yes, clipping the gravel. Oh, that's actually quite a big hit, and the rear wing comes off the car as well. Now, he hasn't jumped back to the pit lane. He's carried on with the race, but still, that's a hefty hit into a concrete barrier there for Heinz Mayer. So he's just going to try and get the car to the end. I think he is a lap down on these guys, so he's not got as long to do as he normally would. He doesn't have to do the extra laps when it comes to the end of the race. Lewis Ward and Simon Povey are still glued together a little bit up the road from this. Guy Edwards doing well in 4th place. Christian Saruta trying to hold up to that top 5. Dan McCauley, don't forget, started 10th on the grid in this race and has moved up 1 place into 9th. So really, if you can finish anywhere ahead of where you started, I always say it's a good day at the office, to be fair, Ed. And Johnny Elia will probably agree right now. He's 2 places up from where he started. And despite saying he hates the circuit, the biggest mover in the field is actually Ben Gregory, who's gained 5 spots. He's not going to like that, is he?
No, he isn't, but I think he'll take it on the chin if he's able to score these points on the board. And the McLaren is struggling for tyre life, tyre grip. Only 2 more minutes to go at a circuit that he doesn't like. I'm sure he'll be glad to see the back of it, but even more glad to see that 13th place next to his name at the end of the evening, because it's been a great drive. Ben making up 4 positions at the start of the race, then a few more later on, and now into 13th, gaining 5 places. Like I say, very good day at the office, but talk about gaining positions, I dread to think what it feels like to lose 10, because Callum Brandt has not had a nice evening. Just one mistake, wasn't it, into the pit lane, misjudging, I think, the speed taken by his teammate into the pits compared to himself, running into the back, and then by running outside of the pit lane, sort of on the pit entry, gave him a stop and go penalty.
Yeah, it's a massive, massive shame for him. But still part of racing, unfortunately. He didn't have a podium finish at Daytona, did Callum, but he was still right up there in 4th position, so it was still a decent scoring round. It wasn't like he lost a big amount there, but this one is certainly going to hurt if it affects his championship further down the line, and you can imagine that if it does come down to maybe 4 or 5 points difference, then he will be absolutely devastated with that difference that it's going to make. Mark Johnson here all over the back of Paul Goffin, 14th position. These two have both gained 2 places from where they started, so they've gone forward through the field together, technically. They're both doing a good job of it at the moment. Christian Zaruta and Niles Corr have now been joined by Dominic Brennan. The cheeky little hedgehog McLaren has scuttled its way up to the back of this fight, is looking for somewhere to hibernate, and to be fair, it might find somewhere underneath that massive BMW, but hopefully not anything too close to call, as I believe we may be about to finish the race here, Ed. We've got 15 seconds left.
Not quite.
No,
I think
he's
James
gonna do it,
Holman is
isn't
going to get us to do one more lap. I was looking and it was close. He might have been able to actually back off.
Yes.
Because look, he could have backed off and done one less lap, but comes up to the line, white flag is waved, and tell you what, Ben Gregory will not like that. It's so close to the end. He could have done one less lap, but by the margin of about 2 seconds, that means now he has to do an extra nearly 2 minutes worth of driving here. But it'll be 2 minutes of driving that James Holman will be absolutely savouring.
And right now, Lewis Ward would have hoped that he didn't have to do an extra lap as well, because he now has to defend once more from Simon Povey, although I think Simon's probably happy to just take this one as it is at the moment after that mistake earlier. Doesn't want to push the tyres too hard. Guy Edwards is looking very comfortable in 4th place. Christian Zaruta is not looking comfortable at all in 5th place, but he'll be happy to take the points as well. He's really enjoyed himself so far, by the look of it, as Christian, because obviously we saw that he was very, very quick at the Road America 400 kilometres as a bit of a prelude to the championship, and we hadn't seen what he was like before. That was the first time he jumped in the Mercedes, and it's been wonderful to watch as Simon Povey and Lewis Ward are side by side into dry sack. Didn't expect to see that, actually. I thought Simon was going to sit behind, as per the commentary I mentioned a moment ago, but still, Lewis Ward back in front on the exit. Runs a little bit wide there through the left-hander, but holds on to the position. What about this lot? Oh, Brennan puts his nose down the inside of Niles Corr. They're going to now be side-by-side on the exit. He's got to be careful. We've seen Niles suffers a little bit from netcode before. Look at that, cuts across the front of the McLaren in a very demanding way. Zaruta's going to be happy with that because it means that he's got a bit more of a gap now as well. Only a few more corners, though, for this man, Ed. It's been a good drive, hasn't it, this?
Excellent drive from James Holman. We saw a good pace from him at Daytona. We thought it might just be a matter of time, but to have such a quick turnaround in just a week after, to have this level of performance, he is really making all the drivers stand up and take notice.
James Holman wins in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It's the first win for a Porsche since August in 2022. And Lewis Ward takes 2nd place out of Simon Povey, both of them getting another podium each after a fantastic scrap all the way through. Guy Edwards is going to be the next car home in 4th place, but look in the background because it's going to then be Christian Zaruta, Niles Corr and Dominic Brennan. Another fantastic showing by all of these guys. And Rob Sharp again getting a solid points finish there in 8th place after again proving just how good that Porsche can be. Dan McCauley, after a tough night, is actually going to finish 1 place ahead of where he started. Very well done in 9th place. Then it's going to be Johnny Elia and Christopher Smith, 10th and 11th. Very well done to Johnny. And then Paul Goffin and Mark Johnson, probably the last battle to settle really here, Ed. Let's see how these two make it around the final couple of corners.
Yeah, Paul Goffin just seemingly with the advantage. I think you can see Mark Johnson is close enough to make any moves. There's a little bit of covering anyway by Paul. And with the exit, he should be safe in 14th place. Great drive from the car just ahead as well. Ben Gregory trying to gain the most positions all race long, up 5 places into 13th. Wonderful stuff by the boosted Jericho driver. But what a great race that was. Jerez was certainly surprised me with the quality of racing that we saw, because I thought, oh, it was too twisty, too technical. It's going to be difficult for the drivers to probably make moves, but we were treated to what is probably an all-time classic with James Holman getting his first race victory in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge.
Yeah, that was absolutely solid. Really, really good stuff, that. Absolutely enjoyed that one. And of course, we hope you did too. Everybody that's watching along at home. Plenty to look at in that race and plenty to think about. I don't really know many drivers that would have hated that race anyway, but we'll certainly go through the order when everybody has finished the race. I think we've still got a few cars. No, Fausto Pinto has completed the race, so yeah, everybody has now crossed the line, and that is that here at Jerez for round 4 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Let's go over some race results, shall we? And tell you how they all rounded that one out. James Holman wins by 6.3 seconds. The first win for a Porsche and even first podium for a Porsche in a long time. Really well done to James. He deserved that one thoroughly, especially after a tough week last week. Lewis Ward finishes second and Simon Povey third. Yet again, those two absolute stalwarts of not just the championship, but the podium as well. A strong showing from Guy Edwards. He may have been under the radar at certain points, but he did a really good job there with fourth. Saruta also in fifth place, holding off Niles Corr and Dominic Brennan to the end. Rob Sharp was 8th ahead of Dan McCauley and Johnny Elia, who rounds out the top 10. He was just ahead of Christopher Smith at the line. Byron Crawford was next up in 12th, a bit of a lonely race for Byron, but still solid points from one of the championship sponsors. Then it was Ben Gregory in 13th place, biggest mover in the field. Hate this track, do you, Ben? Fausto Pinto actually gained 5 places as well, sorry Ben. Paul Goff in 14th, Mark Johnson in 15th, Tom Weston in 16th. It was a shame that actually, because Tom was going really well at the beginning of the race. He's really found some pace from somewhere. Callum Brandt down in 17th. He's going to hate that result screen, so we'll move it on nice and quickly for him, although he's going to still remain on the screen. Sorry, Callum. Fausto Pinto, the first car that was 1 lap down, but he gained 5 places in that race. A really solid move through the order. And then it's Martin Kenyon gaining 1 place in that race to move up to 19th. John Roberts actually made a strategy work as well in the end and got into 20th position. 4 places gained for him, so well done to John in the final point scoring position. Kim Such was next up ahead of Ryan Penny and Heinz Mayer, then Andy Marston, the last car finishing. Drew Fletcher and Andrew Shepherd, unfortunately a double DNF for SRM Racing Team B tonight, and Philip Hopley not able to complete the race due to connection issues once more. Wow, very busy night of racing, Ed, but I tell you what, I've fallen in love with this circuit even more. It held a very special place in my heart after growing up with 1990s Formula 1 and of course the dramas and all the chaos that unfolded at the end of the 97 season, let alone the Schumacher-Villeneuve incident, but having 3 cars set identical times at the front of the grid was certainly a highlight. This has been a belter, this, an absolute classic for this championship.
Yes, it has, and one that will live long in the memory for both us, everyone that watched it, but none more than this man who joins us in the Commentary Box, James Holman. After such an amazing time out at Daytona, you had good pace. Did you ever think that you were going to get the race victory at the very next time of asking?
I knew if there was one place I could get it, it would be here. The Porsche's strong around here, so I had this one circle on the calendar, and I'm absolutely delighted, to be honest with you. Simon and Lewis, Cal, there's some great drivers in this championship, and now I'm really happy. And yeah, it's my mum's birthday today, so happy birthday, Mum. That one's for you.
Happy birthday, Mum. That's great to hear. Hopefully she has been watching the broadcast and has enjoyed it, because that was certainly enjoyable for us. Actually, one of the biggest margins of victory we've seen, I think, all season long. A really strong performance. What do you pin that down to?
I think the McLaren just ate its tyres, to be honest. I was like the 1 lap pace. I know Simon and Lewis, I can't get near that. I just can't extract that from the car. So to be a 10th off them after qualifying, I was very happy. And I thought to myself, okay, just stay patient. And Lewis was pushing. I could see them both pushing really hard, and I was just fuel saving. So I was just sitting there thinking, okay, lads, you keep pushing, and I'll just keep everything under control. And then obviously when they pitted, I just pushed like mad on the in lap, and I did take a little bit less of fuel, but yeah, it was just, I came out 5 seconds in the lead, or 4 seconds in the lead. And I knew that they'd have taken tyres, so I was just trying to negate that advantage that they took. And then I could see at the end of the stint, I was just starting to pull away again, so I was just starting to put the hammer down at the end of the stint, try and build the lead. And yeah, I was very happy. And the last lap, I was trying to get my fastest lap, so I just tried pushing really hard. I nearly got it, so I had a lot left in the car. So I was very happy with the car, and yeah, delighted.
Well, happy with the car, and it might be going to another circuit that suits the Porsche. Came down to the ground. Manicourt coming up in a week's time. A very technical, twisty circuit. Do you reckon you can repeat the race that you saw at Jerez, or is it maybe going to be down to the track temperatures to help you out a bit more?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't driven a lap around Manicourt in GT4, so I don't know how the car's going to go, and I don't think there was an official there last year to sort of give me a guide on what's what's going to happen. So I think the corners at Jerez are quite a wide, like a not a super wide radius, but they're kind of a nice sort of radius, which means it's kind for the Porsche's gearing. Whereas Manicourt, I think the corners are a little tighter. So I'd expect the Mercedes as well to be a bit stronger there, with the curbs at the end of the lap as well. Those curbs in the final chicane are really going to prove a challenge. So yeah, we'll see how we go. To be honest with you, I'm made up, so I don't care about next week at the moment.
Fair enough, mate. Well, obviously, with this victory, you're going to be getting a big jump up the championship standings. Do you know what you're going to be aiming for throughout the season? Because this is the first time we've actually, I think, had a chance to speak to you. So we'd like to know what your sort of goals and aims would be for the season going forward.
Well, I missed round 1 as we were moving house, so I knew I was behind the 8 ball. So really, I was going to try and help Cal as much as I could to get as many points, but obviously Cal had a bit of a tough night tonight, which was a bit of a shame. But so yeah, I mean, personal goals, I think if I can get best of the rest behind the big 3, that would be nice. But like I say, there's some exceptional drivers and some good pedalers. So yeah, no, we'll just try and do my best every week. And hey, if I keep winning like this every week, then who knows?
Yeah, mate, I don't think this will be the last time we'll be able to talk to you on the top step of the podium, buddy. But congratulations here tonight at Jerez. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to here on the broadcast?
Obviously, a big shout out to my mum. It's her birthday today, so happy birthday again. Shout out to my wife, my family, everyone watching at home, and yeah, and then obviously Team RD. Rob's got some technical problems at the moment, so he's not been able to join in at the moment, so I know he's watching. Obviously Cal, Chris, Guy and Josh. I know Josh wasn't here tonight as well, but no, we all worked really well in the week, and yeah, just big thanks to them. It's always good fun doing this, and obviously final shout out to you guys. Massive thank you to you guys for putting on a great broadcast. I look forward to watching it back.
Thank you, bud. You can also thank me for helping you tow around at Daytona. I think you learnt a few things from me, which is what you got your excellent first race victory. I'll accept a check in the post, buddy.
Yeah, well, actually, I think that's where I learned how to be fast. I just was following you, and then I thought, I'll take that to Jerez with me. I'll keep it in my pocket at Daytona, and I take it to Jerez with me instead.
Cheers, buddy. You're giving me confidence that I can win a few races if I was to get back behind the wheel as well, mate. No worries, though. You enjoy your evening, mate. You've thoroughly deserved it. What a drive.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. And that's the thing, Ed. You know, you've taught these drivers a lot. Not everybody sees that when they watch the races. We need to remind them, don't we?
Yeah, the runner-up in Season 2 obviously wasn't quick enough to beat the likes of Simon Povey, but I've still got a little bit of pace in me, I like to think. But I think just the level of driver has gone up so high. And, well, thanks to this person who's joined us in the comments booth. Why don't you chat to him, Chaz?
Indeed, yeah. The quality of drivers has definitely gone up this season. I'm delighted to have Christian Sarita on the grid and in the commentary box this season. Christian, talk us through that race, because even from a tyre perspective as a Mercedes driver, that looked quite difficult.
Sweaty. Very sweaty. Very sweaty right now.
So it was as hot in the car as it looked in the sim?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like I was sat in the engine bay of the car at the minute. The last few laps were a bit spicy with Nils, just having to defend from Nils and just not make any mistakes. And there's a couple of interesting moments coming into the pits where I managed to make up a few places. That was quite entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely, actually. I forgot about that one, strangely. But yeah, there was a bit of a self-team implosion in front of you. What were your thoughts when that happened? Because I imagine it's one of those moments where you've just got to sort of not think and react. But was anything going through your head in particular?
Well, I just thought, brilliant. Cheers.
I love the honesty.
Thanks very much. But yeah, I'm starting to get the hang of this car a little bit more. It's still, I think, a fair way to go. Looking at some of the pace of these boys, it's fast and furious. That's not me promoting the new movie. That's just
I wouldn't watch
the
it.
The Master neither would I. Too many gear changes. Yeah, these guys are so fast. Like, need to work out a couple of things, I think. And also, like, just doing our races the concentration starts to waver. So normally I do like short, sharp races. So doing our races is it's a bit of a change as well, which I'm getting used to. Yeah, it was nice to get a reasonable result on this one after getting punterinoed in Road Atlanta and having a fairly quiet one at Daytona.
Yeah, I was going to say it's been a bit of a tough start to your campaign, really, in a number of ways. But it's good to see a top 5 coming through from one of the trickiest circuits on the calendar as well. And we go from one very tricky circuit to another. We've got Manicourt in a week's time in France. How are you feeling about going there? Because it's a weird one, isn't it, Manicourt?
Well, it's very frustrating when life gets in the way, but it is my 1-year wedding anniversary on the 11th. So I'm not sure I'm going to get away with that one.
Yeah, I'm not even going to joke about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to make it 2 years if we can. So yeah, I might have to give that one. Then I'm on holiday the week after that, so I might have to give the next one a miss as well.
Oh dear me.
So yeah, it'll be I'll be an also ran for the rest of the season, but I think if I can get a podium at some point, I think I'll be happy with that.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on, Christian, and of course, congratulations in advance for your anniversary next week, and enjoy your holiday as well. But thank you very much for popping in. Before we go, or before you go anyway, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, obviously my wife. Happy anniversary for next week. She won't be watching, but you know,
just in case.
just in case. My mum, because she finds these things very comical, and that's about it.
Lovely stuff. Well, great to speak to you as always, Christian. Thank you very much for your time, and well done on the top 5, and we will see you in a few weeks.
Yep, thanks, gents. See you soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
Well, there we go, Ed. Christian Zaruta, like I say, a fantastic addition to the championship this season, and a really lovely bloke as well. And, well, certainly very, very fast, and especially with the fact that he's only just about picking this car up now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing to think what pace he can still unlock, because he's right up there fighting with the very best of them, and still know that there's more to come. So it's going to be exciting to see how his pace progresses, as does the season. Obviously, I'm here every round with his wedding anniversary on the horizon, but he can move along with proceedings to talk to another driver. And we've been kind of exposing you a little bit here, Ben, because we've been sort of, every time you've been having a great moment in the race, defending well and gaining positions, we always have to add the caveat, oh, but he hates this circuit, can't stand it. Do you like it now? Have you found any more love for it? No. Fair enough.
It's too warm.
Oh, I love that.
Too warm.
Sorry.
No, it's not my circuit. It's so many long, fast corners, and my poor little McLaren's front tyres were hot. Yeah, I was struggling. I was really struggling. I just don't know how to drive it more than anything. It's the first time actually racing this track. Honestly, the only time I've been around this track is 2 laps in a Mercedes F1 car, so it's a bit different task tonight.
A little bit different, but you still made it look quite good out there. I mean, you were having an amazing battle for quite a few laps actually with Tom Weston. Just talk us through the 40 minutes to half hour, however long it was, of having to keep him at bay.
Yeah, it was really nice and respectful as well. Like, it was not neither of us being stupid. Everyone at the time, we sort of like came alongside each other, gave each other plenty of room. So one of us made a bit of a silly nudge, we backed out and gave it back. It was really good. Like, honestly, once I passed him on the first lap, it was very much looking in my mirrors for the rest of it, until I don't know what happened to him. He dropped a bit. I don't know if it was a pit stop or something, but yeah, I was then trying to chase Byron for the rest of it and just couldn't. Kept making some mistakes at the chicane, which kept dropping time, which was not fun.
I think Tom made one little mistake late on in the race, sort of into the final 15 or so minutes, where I think he just dipped a wheel out onto the gravel and lost quite a bit of time trying to basically slam on the anchors to avoid a wall. So I think that was where he dropped back from just a bit. But then, for a little while, you had Paul Goffin actually catching up to you, didn't you? The other McLaren. And just talk us through how you've been able to tap to the car, because it's been a little bit feisty at times here, especially with the track temperatures as hot as they are.
It's very different to the Aston. I can definitely feel like I definitely know it has more pace than the Aston at more circuits, which is great, but it's very different way to drive. I feel like I'm trying to drive a Porsche Cup car. We're trying to get the nose down because it's odd, but something I'm at least learning how to deal with now. At least, just need to stop burning up the fronts.
Hopefully, you'll be able to keep the fronts under control when we go to Manicourt in a week's time. Another quite twisty technical circuit, and is that one that you're going to have any more love for in comparison to Jerez?
I think so. Like it's a little bit tighter in some of the corners, so I feel like I can be a little bit more patient with the car rather than having to constantly lift off throttle on, because I don't know what I'm doing. At least I've driven Magny-Core and know which way around it goes.
That's always a good thing to know, is to know what corner comes next when you go to a circuit. So fingers crossed we'll see yet another great drive for you. Maybe next time you won't have to be worrying too much about what's behind you. Fingers crossed, because I can imagine it's been incredibly stressful needing to keep the same driver at bay for that length of time.
It's not too bad, but like...
You could do without it, let's say. You could definitely do without it.
I could do without having to run off the line, but it keeps him on behind me. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, all the very best, mate. Before we say goodbye to you and see you out on the circuit in a week's time, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
Yeah,
buddy?
thanks to all the boosted guys. Thanks to John for being good company for tonight's race as well. Doing really well for him after coming back from a unsafe pit exit as well to get more points. Yeah, that's about it, really.
No worries, buddy. Hope you have an enjoyable rest of the night, and hopefully one where you can sit back and relax after all of the drama and manic moments here at Jerez for you.
Cheers, guys.
Well, there we go then. Ben Gregory, obviously enjoying his race technically in the end there, Ed. It was a lively one for him, but it is just down to the talking point of the tyres this evening, isn't it? There was so much going on with these cars, really just not able to keep them in a fantastic place for a race as long as this, on a track as abrasive as this.
Yeah, I mean, for Ben, it was a case of enjoying the race, but not enjoying the circuit, I think it was, at the end of the day. But what a race it was for him. Obviously, one of the drivers that did gain 5 positions, the most positions gained by anyone in that race, besides, of course, Fausto Pinto, who also gained 5 places. But, Chaz, why don't you round out the evening with our final post-race interview with this man, Dan McCauley?
Yes, indeed, Dan. Obviously, the talking point tonight is definitely the tyres. It's been a real difficult race for all of you drivers, but especially the McLarens. What was the strategy going into that one? What was your thoughts initially? Because it seemed like you were the only one really to try something massively different.
Well, I think I actually nailed the strategy. I just didn't nail the whole driving part, which is pretty important. But I knew that if you took tyres at the second stop, it would be a little bit better at the end, because the difference between the front and rear tyres would have been less.
Yeah.
Than just having 4 short ones. So I thought I'd better try it, and it inadvertently backed Simon up a little bit into Lewis, which seemed to help him. Because we couldn't quite figure out which tyres Simon had decided to take, so it was just good to help Lewis out in that way. And then I didn't put enough fuel in the car, so I had to fuel save the whole time, and that was a bit fun. So it's annoying, because when I seen Rob Sharp 2 seconds ahead of me at the end, I was like, oh, if only I didn't have to fuel save, I would have absolutely nailed that, because I just didn't have the 1 lap pace at all tonight. I think it was a real shock to the guys that aren't used to the McLaren, just how bad it is on tyres.
Yeah.
In any sort of corner that has body roll, which this place seems to have everywhere.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's been an interesting circuit to have on the calendar, because it's new to everybody, so a lot of people have had to learn it. It's not a circuit that's been around on iRacing for a while, so they haven't sort of had years and years of experience there. What have you found about the circuit itself, away from the tyre wear and the temperatures? What do you make of the actual track? Because it looks quite good to drive.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Myself and Lewis in pre-season testing set the track a little bit colder than this, and we just went and tried to kill each other basically. And some of the moves you can pull when you both have 4 functioning tyres are absolutely outrageous. And no, it's a really, really good addition to iRacing. It's not one that I expected to be good because I don't think I've ever driven Jerez in anything else, but
yeah,
these cars seem to suit it really well. Especially those Porsches, they just looked ridiculous around here.
You're telling us.
That was mental. Felt like I was driving a boat, and then I've just seen Holman like flying 2 seconds a lap quicker than what I could do, and I thought I had decent tyres at the end.
Yeah.
And then when I heard his interview, it sounds like he didn't take any at all. So I'm not sure what sort of magic carpet he was driving on around there, but I kind of want to borrow it for the next one.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm sure it'll go well around Manicourt. It's another circuit that's quite a challenge. I know that you're not quite as much of a fan of that one, though, from our previous conversations.
Definitely not. I think it's, to be fair, I think it's going to show the BOP off like this track did. I think quali was pretty close between every single car. Driving the formation lap, you could see it wasn't just a McLaren lockout as usual.
Yeah.
It did kind of show that iRacing have totally nailed the BOP in this. And I think Magnico is going to show it off again. I think it'll probably be Porsche, Mercedes, then McLaren there again.
Mm-hmm.
It was I kind of expected Callum to be quite strong here, but I'm not sure what happened to him. Was it a pit stop problem or something?
He decided to crash into his teammate coming into the pits and then got an unsafe pit entry, I'm afraid.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm glad me and Lewis tested that one because we had the same issue.
Well,
but, easy done.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hopefully no similar issues like that for anybody at Manicourt, Dan, but we need to, unfortunately, wrap things up. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to before you go?
Big shout out to you guys for the broadcast, Andy for organising, and a huge one to Lewis. That was insane to get the tyres around there the way he did at the pace he did, so yeah, good one. And apologies to Simon, I didn't intentionally back you up, it just sort of happened.
We did wonder.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he'll get over it.
Oh, he will. Maybe in a year. But thank you very much, Dan. Great to speak to you as always. Well done on the result tonight, and we'll see you at Manicourt.
See you in a bit. Cheers.
Well, there you go, Ed. Another wonderful interview with Dan, and of course a good, honest insight into what it was like around here this evening and what to expect next time round as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be great to see exactly how it will all shake up when we go to Manicourt. Another first for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 challenge, and one that I think will be, again, maybe a bit of a great equaliser for some of these drivers out here to all be essentially on new playing fields in terms of, obviously, the veterans of the championships, the likes of Lewis Ward and Simon Povey, and then of course the newcomers, your Christian Cerrutas, your James Holmans, you know, of course, as well. It's going to be great to see exactly how it will all shake up when we go to France in a week.
Absolutely, and then after that as well, we have another new circuit on the calendar, Donington Park. We go to the Grand Prix circuit, so we've got a trio of brand new circuits here, so these few results that we're going to get are really going to be ones that shake up the championship. But tonight was one of those already. It certainly proved itself to us tonight, did Jerez, and so too did James Holman in the Porsche. The first time a Porsche has been on the podium in a while, and the first time a Porsche has won a race since August nearly a year ago at the hands of Dominic Brennan at Monza near the end of Season 1. But still, an up and down night for drivers near the top of the championship. Callum Brandt finishes down in 17th place. Many of them struggle with tyres, and certainly things will get even more shuffled up before we go to Manicourt in a week's time. Thanks to all the drivers, all the viewers, everybody involved with the championship. Thanks to our wonderful sponsors as well, of course, the fantastic people behind Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Blinds to Go, Derbyshire Holiday Homes, and Mydas Simulations. And thank you very much to my co-commentator Ed May. I've been Chaz Draycott. This has been the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and we'll see you in a week's time, everybody. Have a fantastic evening. Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you've been loved and a terrific show out. Back there, go on board with Ben Gregory now. I love it. gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.